All right, everyone, get ready. Because today we are taking a deep dive into the core of Oracle CPQ, the Product Workbench. This one is for you if you've ever felt a little bit lost trying to manage products and their configurations.
Yeah, we're going way beyond the basics with this one.
Yeah.
We are really going to dissect this Oracle documentation and try to pull out the most important stuff that'll turn you into a Product Workbench Pro.
So think about this, those old tools with those clunky interfaces and a million different menus.
Yeah,
The Product Workbench, it's like stepping into some kind of high-tech workshop where everything's streamlined and everything just makes sense.
and just like a well-organized workshop, the Product Workbench is set up so you can manage literally every single thing about your products.
Okay, so we're talking how they're structured to how they're priced, all of that.
All of it.
So no more jumping around between different systems or like wrestling with spreadsheets or anything.
No more of that.
This document says there are 3 core capabilities of the workbench. I'm kind of excited.
It all starts with the foundation, and that's setting the pricing, which, that might sound kind of basic, but
Yeah.
we're talking about managing everything from your simple list prices to these really complex multi-tiered models.
Oh, I bet. I'm seeing here too, it also mentions something called contextual pricing. And this is where I think it gets really, really cool.
Absolutely. So contextual pricing basically lets you adjust prices in real time based on all sorts of factors. So things like quantity, bundles, even a customer's profile. Think like dynamic discounts or special offers that are targeted to different types of clients.
Okay, so this is a whole other level of flexibility I haven't really seen in a lot of other tools.
Yeah, this is where you can get in there and really start to fine-tune that pricing strategy.
Totally, yeah.
And then on top of that, you have the power to set up multiple charges. So things like setup fees, different subscription pieces, even usage-based billing. And all of this is tied back to a single product or service.
So are we saying you can manage literally the entire life cycle of what a product costs, all within this one tool?
That's exactly what we're saying.
That changes everything, especially for anyone who's dealing with subscriptions or just really, really complex billing.
Exactly. And it gets even better when you see how smoothly it all works with the Oracle sales environment.
Oh, okay. And speaking of which, how do we actually get into this product workbench wonderland? Because the document mentions there are 2 main ways to get there.
Yeah, you can launch it straight from the Oracle sales interface, the one you're already familiar with.
Familiar, yeah.
Or you can get there from inside Oracle CPQ itself.
Okay, so it's all about making it as easy as possible, no matter what.
Exactly, 100%.
So whether you're living in the world of sales or you spend most of your time in CPQ, you can get to the workbench really easily, which is always good. You don't want to be hunting around in some random menu trying to find the one thing you need.
Exactly. And, this is where that integration really comes in handy. It's designed to feel familiar whether you are coming from sales or CPQ.
Yeah, for sure. I did notice it mentioned something called Alta Navigation. Is that something we need to worry about right now?
That's a newer navigation feature they added into CPQ. But for this deep dive, we're going to stick to the core stuff within the Product Workbench.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can do a whole nother deep dive on that later.
Exactly.
So let's imagine we've accessed the workbench we're in. What's it look like? What's the first thing that we're probably going to want to use?
One of the first things you're going to love is the search function. It's super robust. Imagine if you had a search bar that understands your products as well as you do.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued. Tell me more about this magical search bar.
So it's not just your basic keyword searches, although it can definitely do that. You've got advanced filters, so you can really narrow things down, and it even gives those auto suggestions as you're typing.
Okay, so it's like having a personal assistant who knows your product catalog inside and out.
Yeah.
Which is super important when you're dealing with tons of inventory, right? So you don't have to scroll forever or try to remember what that one specific thing was called.
You got it.
Perfect, love it.
And once you've found what you're looking for, you're going to end up on the products and pricing page.
Okay.
And that's really the heart of the workbench. This is where all the fun begins.
Products and pricing. Okay, that sounds pretty self-explanatory. But knowing Oracle, I have a feeling it's more than just that.
You're right about that. You are right about that. This is where the workbench gets really smart, and it separates parts from bombs.
Okay, humor me for a second, because I feel like I've heard those terms before, but...
Okay, so parts. Those are your standard, standalone products. You can think of them like ingredients in a recipe.
Okay.
Bombs, on the other hand, those are your bills of materials. So those represent the more complex bundles or kits.
So kind of like parts of the ingredients, and then bombs are the final dish.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. And the document actually gives that example of the Sentinel custom desktop.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a computer, right? It's a
Mhm.
whole bunch of different choices and configurations.
It is, and that's what's so great about bombs with those optional items. You can model that really easily.
And it's all right there in the workbench.
Oh, right there, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so this is where I think it gets really, really interesting. And to be honest, I need some help wrapping my head around it. The document mentions this idea of simple configurators.
Okay.
Help me out. What is that?
Okay, so you know how we were just talking about bombs and how they can have those optional items?
Yeah.
A single bomb configurator basically lets you take those options and put them into this visual format that's really easy to understand.
So I'm picturing this right. It's almost like a digital menu where you can choose different options for your Sentinel custom desktop.
Exactly.
And it'll show you, okay, this RAM works with this processor, this graphics card, all of that.
You got it, and here's the best part. The system actually builds that configurator for you based on how you structured your beat.
No kidding.
Yeah, you don't have to create it from scratch.
That is amazing. Okay, that's what I call working smarter, not harder. And I'm seeing in the documentation now, it looks like version 24D, they added a feature to these configurators, something about cardinality.
Good eye. That's a good catch.
I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but what is that?
You are. So cardinality basically brings in this other layer of control to your configurators, and it lets you set minimums and maximums for the different menu options.
Okay.
So that way you're making sure that those final product configurations are going to make sense.
So for example, if our Sentinel custom desktop absolutely has to have a certain kind of motherboard, it can't function without it.
Right.
But then it can only handle, say, a maximum of 2 graphics cards. We can set those limits in the configurator and know that customers aren't going to accidentally order something that's not going to work.
Exactly. No more worrying about customers ordering incompatible parts or, missing something essential.
That alone has got to save so many headaches for so many people.
100%. It streamlines everything.
And we haven't even gotten into the administrative side of the product workbench yet.
We haven't even scratched the surface.
Okay, so we just walked through searching for products and even talked about all the different ways you can actually structure products.
Right.
And now I think it's time to tackle one of the most important parts of, well, pretty much any business, and that is pricing.
It's true. This is where the product workbench really, really shines.
Yeah.
You get this level of control and detail that you don't see in those old clunky tools.
And I'm looking at the documentation here, and it's talking about these rate plans and charges. I have to admit, those sound a little intimidating, especially if we're talking about recurring revenue and things like that.
Sure. Yeah, they sound a lot more complicated than they actually are. Let's break them down.
Okay, please.
Let's start with rate plans. Think of a rate plan as it's basically the blueprint for how you're going to charge for your product or your service. And it's over a specific amount of time. So maybe it's a monthly subscription. It could be an annual contract, or even one of those usage-based models where they pay for what they use.
Okay, so the rate plan is setting up that billing cycle.
Exactly.
So where do those charges come in then?
So the charges, those are the specifics, right? Those are the individual line items within that rate plan.
Okay.
And they let you get really specific and define exactly what it is the customer is actually paying for.
So I'm starting to see how this works. So going back to that example from the document, that Sentinel custom desktop.
Sure.
If we were selling that as part of, say, a monthly subscription,
Yeah.
that rate plan would be that monthly fee.
Exactly.
But then the charges would be for those individual pieces. So
Okay.
the base computer itself, maybe they wanted extra RAM, a better graphics card, whatever it is.
A support package.
Support, exactly. All of
Right.
that would be a separate charge.
Exactly. You got it.
So it's like you're building a pricing structure, but you've got all these different Lego bricks you can use.
I like that analogy. That's a really good way to put it.
The rate plan is that base plate, and then the charges are all those little pieces you can click in.
And you could rearrange them however you need to. You can mix and match those charges however you want to create the exact pricing that you need for your products and your strategy.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing. It's like you've got that high-level strategy, but then you can also get into the weeds and make all these tiny little adjustments.
Exactly. And you're not limited. You can change it if you need to, very easily.
And I bet without the right tool, this could get really messy really fast.
Oh, absolutely. Trying to manage all of that in spreadsheets or separate systems, it would be a nightmare. And that's what's so fantastic about the product workbench. It not only provides the structure for these really, complex pricing models, but it makes it so easy to manage. Way less risk of errors.
Love it. Okay. And since we're talking about things that could get confusing, the document also mentions something called price types and then something separate called charge types. And initially, I thought those were the same thing.
Sure, it's really easy to mix those up.
What's the difference?
They are similar, but they actually serve different purposes within the workbench. You got to understand the difference to really use this thing properly.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Break it down for me. Price type versus charge type.
Okay, so think of price type as like it's defining the mechanics of the charge. It's how it's actually calculated.
Okay.
So is it a one-time fee? Is it a recurring charge? Or is it calculated based on usage?
So the price type is telling us kind of like the rhythm of that charge.
Right.
One-time recurring usage.
You got it. And then the charge type comes in.
Yeah.
And it's adding that layer of detail to tell you and the customer what that specific charge actually represents on their bill.
Okay, I think I understand, but can you give me an example just to be sure?
Absolutely. Let's use that Sentinel desktop one last time.
Okay.
This time, imagine we're also offering a premium support package with it.
Okay, sure.
So the price type for that support could be recurring. So they'd be paying a monthly fee for that.
Makes sense. It's an ongoing service. They're paying a monthly fee.
Okay. Now, the charge type in this case might be premium support, right?
So it's clearly spelled out on the invoice.
Exactly. So the customer knows, okay, this is what I'm paying for.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So price type, that's like the billing cadence, and then the charge type, that's the itemized description on the invoice. Got it.
Nail it.
Yeah.
And the workbench lets you define all of these things.
That's awesome.
So you can make sure that your pricing is accurate, but also, and this is really important, that it's communicated clearly to the customer, which is so important for a good customer experience.
Absolutely. You know, I never realized how much strategic thinking goes into pricing something, even if it's just a desktop computer.
Oh, there's so much that goes into it. It's all about finding that right balance. Offering flexible and competitive pricing, but also making sure that you're capturing the full value of what you're providing.
It's a fine line to walk.
It is.
I love seeing how the product workbench really lets you do all of that.
It does. And you know what? This brings us to something else really cool about the product workbench that we haven't even talked about yet. It can actually handle volume discounts, tiered pricing, even integration with other external pricing systems.
Wait, there's even more? I'm starting to think this product workbench is like a Mary Poppins bag of tricks for product managers.
I think you might be right about that.
Amazing. And we've really only just started to scratch the surface. So for our listener who's been taking notes on all of this, if they're going to walk away and remember just one thing about the product workbench, what would you say that is?
I'd say it's the control and the flexibility that it gives you. It's more than just, managing products and pricing. The product workbench really lets you think strategically. You can model different pricing, you can test different product configurations, and you can see how those decisions are going to play out in real time, all in one place. That's pretty powerful.
It really is. You know, one of the features that really stood out to me was that simple configurator functionality.
Right.
Especially that auto-generation part based on your BOM structure. That just seems like it would make things so much easier.
Absolutely. And you know what's great about those simple configurators is it's not just about making your life easier. It's also about that customer experience. When you can show those product options in a way that makes sense visually, it's super intuitive.
Yeah.
It lets the customer really take control and get exactly what they need without having to get bogged down in all those technical details.
Exactly. And having that kind of seamless customer experience, that can really set you apart these days,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. It's a huge deal.
It's amazing how a tool that's designed for, internal efficiency can also change how you interact with customers.
It's true. And it all comes back to that idea we were talking about, that shift from just selling a product to actually offering solutions,
Yeah.
The product workbench isn't just about those day-to-day transactions. It's about looking at the big picture and creating those really personalized experiences.
I love that. Okay, so it's clear that mastering the product workbench, it's bigger than just checking off features on a list, right? You have to really change the way you think about product development and how you work with your customers.
Absolutely. It's a whole new way of thinking.
Okay, so for our listener who's ready to jump in and start exploring the product workbench, where would you point them?
Definitely check out the Oracle CPQ documentation.
Okay.
There's so much good stuff in there. Detailed explanations, step-by-step instructions.
Perfect for a deep dive.
Absolutely. Real-world examples. The more time you spend with it, the more you're going to realize how powerful it really is.
And for all of our listeners who are more the community-minded type,
Yeah.
don't forget those Oracle community forums.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Connect with other users, share tips. You can even get advice straight from Oracle, so you're not alone in this.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
We are all in this together. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for diving into the Product Workbench with me. I have learned so much.
It's been a pleasure being here. I love talking about this stuff. It's really exciting to see how these tools can help businesses grow and change.
And to all of our amazing listeners out there, we hope you are feeling inspired to unlock the full potential of the Oracle CPQ Product Workbench. As always, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep on diving deep.